What if Marvel's most dangerous villain isn't someone who simply wants to destroy superheroes, but someone who believes he can control science, magic, and reality itself? Victor Von Doom, better known to the world as Dr. Doom, is one of those villains whose name immediately creates an image far more terrifying than a typical comic book antagonist. You picture the armored figure, the cold metallic mask, and the man behind it, whose mind is fueled by intelligence, obsession, magic, and an ambition that seems to have no limit. When Stan Lee and Jack Kirby introduced Doom in Fantastic Four in 1962, few could have imagined that this character would eventually become one of the most iconic villains in comic book history. But Doom's greatness has never been about his armor or his terrifying appearance. His real power has always been his mind. He understands science, he masters sorcery, and perhaps most importantly, he refuses to believe that he can ever be wrong. And if you think Dr. Doom is simply the villain of the Fantastic Four, then you've only seen the surface of his story. Because the journey of Victor Von Doom isn't just the origin of a villain, it's the tragedy of a man who turns his greatest loss into his greatest source of power.
Victor's story begins in Latveria, where his childhood was spent not inside a royal palace, but among a gypsy family. His father, Werner, was a doctor, a man who dedicated his life to saving people. But Victor's mother, Cynthia, belonged to a completely different world. She was a sorceress, someone who possessed mystical knowledge far beyond anything an ordinary human could understand. But for Cynthia, magic wasn't simply a source of power. She wanted to protect her people from oppression. And that desperation pushed her toward a path from which there was almost no return. Cynthia made a contract with a demonic force like Mephisto, and the price was horrifying. She lost her life, and her soul was captured by Mephisto. Victor had lost his mother, but that loss created an obsession inside him. He decided that no matter how impossible the world said it was, no matter how many limits science placed in front of him, and no matter how powerful the forces of magic became, he would free his mother. But the tragedy didn't end there. His father, Werner, also tried to save Cynthia's soul, and during that journey, he died from the cold. One by one, Victor lost both of his parents, and perhaps that was the moment when something inside him permanently changed. Victor began studying his mother's mystical texts, learning the secrets of magic, while simultaneously developing his scientific abilities to an extraordinary level. His intelligence eventually became so remarkable that it earned him a scholarship to America. America introduced Victor to an entirely different world. Advanced technology, universities, scientific research, and within that environment, he met someone who would eventually become his greatest rival, Reed Richards. Both men were extraordinary minds, but there was one fundamental difference between them. Reed saw knowledge as a way to discover the unknown. Victor saw knowledge as a way to control it. His obsession remained the same, freeing his mother's soul from Mephisto. To achieve that impossible goal, Victor attempted to combine science and magic and created a machine that could potentially allow him to reach hell itself. But one mistake changed his entire life. The machine malfunctioned, causing an explosion that horribly scarred his face. After the incident, Victor was expelled from the university. And this was another moment when his rivalry with Reed began to deepen. But the most important thing was that Victor didn't accept his failure as defeat. He left America and traveled to Tibet, where he lived among monks and learned their ancient arts and mystical techniques. Eventually, he became their leader. And then he created the two things that would forever define his new identity, his armor and his mask. Victor covered his damaged face and swore that no mortal would ever see it again. The irony is that the world eventually forgot the face of Victor Von Doom and remembered the mask of Dr. Doom. Victor Von Doom wasn't gone. He had simply returned under a new name, Dr. Doom. But Doom's most terrifying quality has never been his armor. It's his strategy. In many of his battles against the Fantastic Four, Doom doesn't simply attack them head-on. He studies their weaknesses. He understands the desires hidden inside each hero, and if he can manipulate those desires, he doesn't even need to defeat them physically. Just look at Ben Grimm. For Thing, one of his greatest sources of pain was his monstrous appearance. Doom understood that weakness and turned it into a weapon. He didn't simply try to destroy the Fantastic Four, he offered them the things they wanted most. And that is what separates Doom from an ordinary villain. He doesn't always punch you into submission. Sometimes, he gives you exactly what you've always wanted, and then makes you pay the price for it. But there is another side to Doom that makes his character far more complicated. His obsession with freeing his mother's soul remained alive for years. Every year, he continued searching for a way to defeat Mephisto and release Cynthia. Eventually, he formed an alliance with Doctor Strange, and that combination alone was extraordinary. On one side stood the Sorcerer Supreme. On the other stood the man known across the Marvel Universe as Dr. Doom. Together, they entered the realm of Mephisto and fought to free Cynthia's soul. Doom succeeded. His mother was finally freed, but the victory wasn't what he had imagined. He had to face her hatred. And perhaps that is where Doom's tragedy becomes clearest. He spent his entire life gathering power because he wanted to save his mother, only to discover that when he finally freed her, he didn't receive the love he had been fighting for all those years. And that is why reducing Dr. Doom to simply an evil villain would completely underestimate his character. His actions are ruthless, but there is usually a twisted logic behind them. Doom believes that if the world is going to be saved, someone must take control of it. And in his mind, that someone is him. If he wants power, it isn't simply because he wants to feel powerful. He genuinely believes that he knows how power should be used. But when a man who considers himself one of the greatest minds in existence decides that only he knows what is right, that's when the real danger begins. Doom War is one of the clearest examples of that mentality. Doom targeted Wakanda and its vibranium, not simply because he wanted wealth or technology, but because he wanted to use vibranium alongside his existing scientific and mystical abilities to elevate his power to almost godlike levels. Think about what that means. He already possesses extraordinary intelligence. He already understands magic. He already has advanced armor. And yet he still wants one of the most powerful resources in the Marvel Universe. This reveals something fundamental about Doom. He isn't simply trying to defeat superheroes. He wants to understand, acquire, and control every possible source of power. And when that ambition reaches the Secret Wars storylines, it goes far beyond anything we've seen before. In the Secret Wars story arcs, Doom achieved something that seemed almost impossible. He acquired the unimaginable power of the Beyonders and transformed himself into a godlike being with control over an entire universe. This wasn't just another power upgrade. It was the ultimate expression of Doom's philosophy. For years, Victor believed that if he could gain enough power, he could reshape reality according to his own vision. And in Secret Wars, he finally received that opportunity. Suddenly, Victor Von Doom possessed power on a scale that could make almost every conventional superhero seem insignificant. But the fascinating part is that even after gaining that level of power, Doom's fundamental nature didn't change. He still believed in order. He still believed in control. He still believed in absolute authority. And that raises a much deeper question. Does power corrupt Dr. Doom? Or does power simply reveal what was already inside him? Because Victor was never an ordinary man with ordinary ambitions. As a child, he promised himself that he would defeat death. As a young man, he tried to break the boundaries between science and magic. As an adult, he challenged heroes and kingdoms. And eventually, he challenged cosmic beings themselves. Every stage of his life follows the same pattern. Victor sees an impossible obstacle, and instead of accepting it, he finds a way to break through it. And now we reach the most dangerous equation behind Dr. Doom: science plus magic. The Marvel Universe has no shortage of brilliant scientists. Reed Richards, Tony Stark, and Bruce Banner are all legendary for their intelligence. And when it comes to magic, there are masters like Doctor Strange. But Doom's greatest advantage is that he operates in both worlds at the same time. His scientific genius allows him to create advanced technology capable of doing things that seem impossible, while his mastery of sorcery allows him to manipulate mystical forces. Doctor Strange himself has acknowledged that Doom possesses the potential to become the Sorcerer Supreme. And that statement completely changes how we should view Doom's threat level. Because imagine a mind capable of creating impossible machines through science, while that same mind can cast spells, unleash mystical blasts, create force fields, manipulate time, and use techniques such as mind transference. Then add his armor on top of that. It gives him superhuman strength and durability, allows him to absorb energy, and lets him unleash devastating concussive blasts. That means defeating Doom isn't simply a matter of destroying his armor. You have to outthink his mind. You have to counter his magic. You have to overcome his technology. And perhaps most importantly, you have to break his will. Because ultimately, Dr. Doom's greatest power isn't his armor, his magic, or even his technology. It's his belief system. Victor Von Doom genuinely believes that he can make the world better. He believes that chaos can only be defeated through absolute control. And that belief is what makes every victory and every failure more dangerous. He lost his parents. He lost his face. He lost his place at the university. And eventually, he even lost his old identity. But every time life tried to break him, he rebuilt himself into something more powerful. Victor never allowed pain to become his weakness. He turned it into fuel. And that's why Dr. Doom's story is far more than the origin of a villain. It's the story of a man who was repeatedly broken by the world. And every time he rebuilt himself, he became more dangerous. Whether it was his psychological warfare against the Fantastic Four, his battle alongside Doctor Strange against Mephisto, his attempt to claim Wakanda's vibranium, or his seizure of the Beyonders' power in Secret Wars, every chapter reinforces the same truth. Dr. Doom isn't simply difficult to defeat. He may be even harder to convince that he is wrong. And perhaps that is why, decades after his creation, Dr. Doom remains more than just another Marvel villain. He has become an idea, a terrifying combination of genius and arrogance, tragedy and ambition, science and sorcery, all hidden behind one unforgettable mask. And as long as Victor Von Doom continues to believe that the universe needs him to save it, his greatest battle may never be against the superheroes at all. It may be against his own conviction that he alone is capable of saving the world. And that could be the one enemy Dr. Doom can never defeat. Doctor Strange against Mephisto. His attempt to claim Wakanda's vibranium, or his seizure of the Beyonders' power in Secret Wars. Every chapter reinforces the same truth. Dr. Doom isn't simply difficult to defeat. He may be even harder to convince that he is wrong. And perhaps that is why, decades after his creation, Dr. Doom remains more than just another Marvel villain. He has become an idea, a terrifying combination of genius and arrogance, tragedy and ambition, science and sorcery, all hidden behind one unforgettable mask. And as long as Victor Von Doom continues to believe that the universe needs him to save it, his greatest battle may never be against the superheroes at all. It may be against his own conviction that he alone is capable of saving the world. And that could be the one enemy Dr. Doom can never defeat. The one enemy Dr. Doom can never defeat.